The Black.Fat.Femme podcast is a production of iHeartRadio and DoctorJonPaul, LLC. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black.Fat.Femme podcast, where all the intersections of identity are celebrated. I'm one of your hosts, John, also known as DoctorJonPaul. And I just really wanted to say, I ain't forgot how y'all niggas acted over that damn chicken sandwich. You know, sometimes I have to remind myself, y'all really showed y'all whole ass over some pickles and 2 pieces of bread and a piece of chicken. You had them poor people close to death, both from COVID and over a chicken sandwich. My God. My God.
Which chicken sandwich do you mean? Because
the Popeyes one.
First of all, they came out before the pandemic.
No, it didn't.
Okay?
That was during the pandemic.
No.
Yes, it was.
No.
Yes, it was.
No.
Okay, let me get on my Google. This is where me and my
I know it was not, because I remember I had a party. And I would not have a party in the pandemic.
Yes, it was.
I had a party.
When was the Popeyes chicken
2019,
sandwich?
2019.
Was it? It was in August of 2019.
And that because I had a party, my birthday party. I have friends that were late because they bought like 20 of the sandwiches for the party, and I was like, "Why the fuck you fuckers late?" And I would have never had the party like that. Party like that during the pandemic, girl. No, okay. I was like, "Don't come for us like that." But listen.
Okay, I feel stupid. I have egg on my face. But either way, I still ain't forgot how y'all acted over that Popeye sandwich.
But you aren't wrong, because they did act up, especially. Listen. People love that sandwich, okay? The sandwich arguably is bomb.
Yeah.
Like, it really is bomb.
You know what? You're right. And you know how I know you're right? Because I used to work in Burbank. I was working at the time when they released it. I was working down the street from the Popeyes. I used to, Yep, you're right. You are so right.
The shit was bomb. Mm-hmm. But also you're right too, because people was acting up, being reckless.
A plum
reckless for a chicken sandwich. Mm-hmm. And y'all was doing the most. So I get that.
All right. But how are you, my girl?
I'm doing good, fam. It's your girl, Jordan Joho, and I am officially a man now. I'm officially a woman. I had my bar mitzvah this past weekend, or hot mitzvah, as I called it, at 30. For those who don't know, in Judaism, people typically do bar mitzvahs at 13 for boys, 12 for girls, and now they do a lot more gender neutral, non-conforming B mitzvahs, as they call them.
B mitzvahs,
like around. Okay, for around the same age. But I have a bar mitzvah when I was 13, and I didn't embrace my Jewishness so much until my adult years, and so I wanted to do a birthday party, and I wanted to do a hot mitzvah.
My question is did they have you? So in all transparency, I'm literally eating myself up over it. I didn't get a chance to go because I was actually out of town, and I really, really had plans to be there, and I wanted to be there, but I could not get out of what I was doing in Chicago. Anyway, and I'll talk more about that later. But what I was going to say was, did they have you in the chair? Did everyone pick you up in the chair and do that?
We're not doing this, y'all. We're not doing this.
Okay.
No. First of all, I saw your tweet about the flimsy party chairs.
Yes.
And like that, you will never get my ass remotely near there. So the way I had rented several nice chairs for my fat folks at my party, I said,
I appreciate you doing that.
I had ran you a chair. I said, let me make sure my good sis gets a good pad check, so I was not gonna have nobody in the
appreciate
seat.
you.
So, no, I was like, you're not gonna have my big ass up out here doing the horror, toss me up in these
streets.
Let's
talk about it. Them white chairs that y'all be having at parties. Can we stop?
For doing, like, just why do you hate us? Like,
literally,
why is the bare minimum like mediocre? Like, give us better than this. Like, I had sat in it just to test it, and I said no. I didn't sit once in a chair. The only chair I sat on was I had this like little throne chair that I was forced to sit on, and I sat in that chair, so you will not move me from this chair.
Amen.
Ooh, but it was an amazing time. You were so missed. I wish you were there. Some people had asked, "Where's your podcast co-host?" Some people were like, "Did you not invite them? That's shady."
No,
and I was
one of the first people. I knew, I'm one of the first people. Yeah,
I said, do not even come. Don't try it with me, baby girl. Don't try with me today. Try to say, did I even invite them, girl? Bye.
Oh my God.
Yes, I said yes. Miss Thing, yes. Miss Thing is gathering around the world like she should be, and she is sad to have missed it. Calm down. But it was amazing. The roast, they had me cooked, bitch.
I believe it. I
could. The
believe it.
way I am getting a photographer and videographer, and when the videos come out, I will send them to you 'cause they
Please.
were hilarious, and it was so beautiful, like, it was so meaningful. My Deborah gave a beautiful blessing
Deborah.
that I was unprepared for. I
Oh.
like, she took it so when I asked her up to bless me, she took it so unserious, and she was like, "Bless you, like, for what? What do I do?" And she gave the most beautiful blessing I've ever witnessed, like, her do, and it was so special,
Mm.
and it made me appreciate how serious she took it. It was just really, really, really nice. I had like one of my mentors um lead us through prayers, which was beautiful. I had a DJ, we had good
Yeah,
food,
it all
we had good
looked
alcohol.
amazing. It all looks
It
so
was
amazing.
a perfect evening, it was perfect night. I was and then girl, the after party, whew,
Mhm.
whew,
Mhm.
girl, I'm still recovering.
I
I'm
believe
still
you.
recovering.
I believe you.
But it was a great time. So now I feel like not you know not I just feel I feel complete. Like I feel like a part of myself was
Mhm.
healed, and a part of myself was found on Saturday, and that
Mhm.
was really, really, really special. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's where he is now,
I love
girl.
it, and I'm, again, so sorry I couldn't be there. For those of you who are probably like, "Where the fuck were you? Why were you not there for your best friend's party?" I was actually I was in Chicago doing some work with the HRC.
Doing amazing
Thank
work,
you.
like
Yes,
doing
and
amazing
I
work,
will
please.
definitely get into it a little bit later, but, the HRC, they have a program called Activate for Black, trans, and non-binary people, and so I was basically learning how to really, like, a lot of it was just kinda strategically planning around what could happen after November 5th, kind of the notion of
Mhm.
what do we need to do if Kamala loses, or what do we need to do if Kamala wins, right? It was very much rooted in both of those things, and so, um I want to say this, and then I'll move on. I know the HRC gets a really bad name, but I want to shout out Kelly for what she's doing over at the HRC. She's really holding a lot of people accountable, and really turning over a new leaf for the HRC
Mhm,
in
mhm.
terms of the transphobia and a lot of the anti-blackness that the HRC once had in their org. And so it just felt, I've never worked with an organization where I immediately felt like every single need was met, from getting to the airport, to the hotel, to food, to asking, helping people with funds while they were there, and being able to enjoy themselves in Chicago. Like, it was every, like, from every, literally every second that I was in Chicago, the HRC had me covered. And so I
Mm,
definitely just want to say, like, that is a true reflection of the leadership that has taken over the HRC, and I'm so grateful that
mhm,
my name gets to be a part of the new leaf that they're turning. So I'll say all of that to say, and we're going to talk more about transness in a second, because that's kind of what this whole episode is about. I did want to say very upfront that this episode is very politics heavy. So if you are not wanting to hear about politics, I know it can be a
we
lot. It can be a little overwhelming. You can skip. I don't know how to do it yet. I'm probably going to talk to Chris about this when we go into editing, but figuring out how to put timestamps in each of the segments, so that way people can actually scroll forward if they want to skip through the segments. And again, the whole show is good, but I do recognize that a lot of us are kind of overwhelmed with all of the political talks. And so I want to make sure that folks have that opportunity, that if they want to skip all through the politics and they just want to get to the funny at the end of the show, I want to make sure that you have that opportunity,
mhm,
because we love you, and we understand folks needing to take care of their wellness. But anyway, all that to be said, we're going to jump into our first segment, where we give an ode to Tisha Campbell, like we do every single week. And I wanted to ask my sister this week about the moment in her life where she had her political Black awakening. And
mm, mm,
I bring that up because I think we've talked about Blackness, and we talk about politics, and we talk about all of the stuff, but both of us are doing, I mean, obviously you're doing a lot for the Black Jewish community, Black queer Jewish community. I'm doing a lot for Black trans folks and Black trans people, and also trying to keep the youth in my community. So we're actively on the grounds doing stuff for marginalized people. And I know that, with all of that to be said, one of the things I want to say is, I think a lot back to my kind of Black political awakening actually was when I was like 4 or 5. It wasn't, a lot of people would think it was Prop 8, because obviously I live in
mm,
SoCal, but it wasn't. It was Rodney King. It was when I remember being in LA at the time the riots happened. And that was actually, I think, part of the reason why my mom wanted to move, was because she
mm,
was tight. We had got caught up in both of the riots. So the first riots that we got caught up with, I can't think of. I could see the baby's name, and I want to say her name was Keisha, but I might be lying. There was a young Black woman who was killed by a Korean woman at a
Mm.
store, and I think it was in the early '90s. And again, please, her name, I don't have the time to research it to go through the name. That was the first riot I remember happening near my grandmother's home. And then the second one was actually on the street of my grandmother's street. They had burnt down the entire liquor store, the wash house, and I think it was like a little mini mart at the end of the end of it, in LA. And so I remember I asked my mom again, I'm like, why are they burning stuff down? And my mom explained it to me, Black people are being killed, Black people are being hurt, and Black people are rebelling. And so that's kind of like, I was like, oh, now I understand what's going on. And even though I didn't fully understand the full why, I knew that my skin color would be something as I got older that would get me in trouble. And so I began to understand that being me, again, queer, Black, fat, all of these different things, right? I knew growing up that I was a problem in the world. And I kind of accepted the moniker of being a troublemaker as I've gotten older. And even now,
Mm.
just being me is trouble. So there's really nothing that I can do, to change that. And so that's the reason why I've been dedicated to shaking the table. But yeah, tell me about you. What was your like political awakening per se?
Well, I mean, I can't imagine being alive at the time of the Rodney King riots in the first place. So that is like, right? Like, I mean, especially in SoCal, that is like a pivotal moment throughout SoCal,
Yeah.
especially like in LA and the like LA and surrounding cities and counties. Like that is like a pivotal moment, like for Black justice work California. And so it's really interesting like hearing you say that. And my first thought would have also been Prop 8 for you too. So when hearing that Running King right at 5 years old is really, really interesting to really, really like fascinating, empowering, and like powerful to
Mm-hmm.
hear. Whereas for me, like Prop 8 kind of was my thing, especially because I think there were two touchdown moments that really shaped my political awakening in my childhood. And one was Prop 8 because I was only 14 at the
Yeah.
time. And I knew how much that prop was shaping a future that I had no agency in deciding for at the time, right?
Ah,
Like
man.
there's
Real.
no like I would have no like I was 14, so I
Yeah.
couldn't vote regardless. So this prop was about a future for me that I would have no say in.
Mm.
And I wasn't out to my parents yet. I remember being really nervous about their thoughts on it. And I don't recall them being necessarily for the prop, but I don't know, but also like not totally against it either.
Gee.
And so I think they voted no on it because they didn't feel like the right to marry should be limited, and I appreciated that at least, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like they at the very least said, "Wow, we may not love to see gay marriage, like we not at least like same sex
I
kissing,
mean, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Uh-huh.
keep that away from my face,
Yeah.
but." Who are we to dictate who can get married or not?
Right.
And so I also like put a little bit of pressure on them as well too, because like I said, that like I wasn't out yet, but I was in high school, so I was like, oh, like like I have gay friends, and mom, we watch TV with like where they have gay and trans characters. So I remember the show we used to watch. We watched there's 3 shows. It was Ugly Betty, Brothers and Sisters, and
Mm.
Dirty Sexy Money.
Mhm. Mhm.
Dirty Sexy Money was one of the first shows that cast a trans woman. It was Candace King
Yes,
playing
Candace, we speak her
one
name, yes.
name,
Mhm.
playing one. Well,
Kind of.
I
We kind of speak her name.
kind of only
Kind of.
because of the thing with Dominique. That was like, oh, I don't fully know.
Wait,
But
pause.
wait,
What
no,
happened
no,
with
I'm sorry. No, you're right. I'm sorry. Actually, no, that was a girl from Drag Race, not Candace. Candace, we use your name. Sorry, forgive me, girl.
Oh,
Forgive
you're
me.
I know who you're talking
I got my
about.
girls
You
mixed up. I got
do.
my girls mixed
Yeah.
up. No, Candace, if you hear this girl, I ride for you regardless. No, no, no. I
I was
ride, I
gonna
ride, I
say
ride.
Candace is good to
No,
me.
Candace has not been problematic once in her life,
Yeah.
and that I've seen. Girl's been on everything. But so the show Dirty Six Money, which show I love, she was a trans woman who played a trans character.
Mm.
And I believe that was her first role, was she actually played a
A trans
trans
woman, yeah.
character who wasn't killed or wasn't like
Right.
attacked, right?
Right.
And she played this like rich person's, maybe like politician's wife, And like they did position her as a secret at first, but I believe
Mm.
that she came out afterwards, like in the show, and they she ended up being accepted. And so I watched that show with my mom a lot. Brothers and sisters had I think two different gay
Yeah.
characters in there. That were queer men. Everybody obviously had queer folks. So I think my mom never, and my dad. My dad never said anything, but if two guys kissed, he would make a noise. He would be like,
Mm.
ugh, like he would like
Yeah.
make a noise. And I was like, but my mom, she kind of kept quiet, and I know that she liked the storytelling of the characters. So all to say, like, I think with that, it pushed like me wanting to be more engaged in a political
Yeah.
sense, where I was like, okay, these things affect me, and I want to be involved in some way. And if I can't vote, at least I can talk to my parents about it, so they can maybe use their own voice or something,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I think a big thing was when Trayvon Martin was killed.
Yeah.
That was something, I mean, that I was in my senior year of high school.
Right.
It was right before graduation. I went to a school where it was hella diverse. Like we had a lot of black students, we had a lot of folks of color, we had a lot of Pacific Islander students, a lot of Asian students, like a lot. Like we were a diverse school. And so when that happened, I think I remember like my students, some students, like some of us talking about it in class and being like,
Mhm.
what happened? I remember like hearing, I remember like seeing protests on the news. I feel like I went to some demonstration with some
You
friends.
probably yeah. Mhm.
Like I feel like I did like it was either in like it was like either in the city like San Francisco or it was somewhere at school. But like I remember us doing something or saying something about it, and thinking like, oh, we it's kind of a moment where like, oh, we live in a bubble where we live
Mhm.
in a bubble.
Mhm.
Not like safety, because like where is ever really safe, but like
Right.
we live in a bubble of knowing that we most likely won't be hurt in this way. Um, and being shocked of like, oh, and also like, oh, like that was a kid.
Yeah.
That was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, and and that kid looks like many of the kids
Mhm.
that we're in class with. And so I think that was when that really trigger something in me of saying, "Oh, when I graduate and and when I move, when I go to school, I want to be more invested in this." And that's actually kind of what actually kind of got me. That actually kind of got me into wanting to like pursue journalism a bit, because I remember reading the stories and being like, I wish they talked more about who he
Yeah.
was, and not and not just what happened in the situation. And I wish they talked more about like who his family was, and like gave him like
Yes.
actual
Yes.
humanity. And
Yes.
I wish they talked less about I wish they talked less about George Zimmerman, and but focusing on his defense and panic. Like I wish they focused so much more on Trayvon. And I
Right.
think that actually galvanized me into saying, "Oh, I really want to figure out how to tell better stories, and
Mm.
be a part of
Mhm.
telling stories that are authentic and real, and also
Yeah.
support people, especially if they don't have the chance to use their own voice for
Yeah,
themselves."
that you speak to what, and it's funny because we still see it happening now, even in 2024, right? This was 11
Mhm.
years ago, and we're still seeing a lot of, the person who does the harm, the focus becomes that's the focal point instead of
Yeah.
talking about the folks and the families and the people that are connected to the lives that are lost. And I think that's the reason that makes me so, no matter what I do, I always say that, social justice, advocacy, equity, all those pieces will always be built into everything that I do, because I think that storytelling is so powerful when you're, often when lives are lost, or when an injustice happens. The world and media is so quick to forget about the people that are harmed by it. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about using
Mhm.
my voice. Is, I think a lot about, like, even thinking about Rodney King and his daughter, right? Like thinking
Mm.
about what could have happened to her. No one has talked to her. No one has really engaged her, or his children, around what that impact, how that looked for them. And so I think about all of that a
Mhm.
lot. I think about,
Mhm.
what does storytelling mean, and why it's so important. And I'm just, I hate saying it this way. I'm happy that I have been alive to experience a lot of these big moments that kind of made me wake
Mm.
up to the system. But I'm also like everyone, tired of it, and can't wait for the day that we don't have to constantly be quote unquote woke. But all that to be said, I'm happy that it has happened, and I'm so happy that folks like yourself
Mm.
are on this journey with me in order for us to keep doing what we do and do what we do, how we do it. All right, y'all. Well, anyway, with that being said, we are going to take a break, and we promise you that the political ads will soon be over. The day that I don't have to worry about seeing or hearing a political ad. My God. When we get back,
Ugh.
we are going to talk trans rights. Yes, we will be back more in a sec.
Okay, fam, we are back, and for today's episode, we are getting electoral.
How you
We're
doing?
talking a lot about voting today. How you doing?
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about voting today, and obviously, as hosts, we believe in the power of voting, especially
Amen.
for your local governments and state representatives. So,
Mhm.
this week's Category A segment, we want to catch everyone up about anti-trans legislation being introduced around the country this past year and dive into a conversation about what is really going on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
John,
Mhm.
take it away, girl.
So the way that we're kind of breaking this up, there's a lot of information here, and me and Joho, normally when we do our segments, as you all know, we ask each other questions and we go back and we talk. But this episode, I want to say up front, is very just information heavy, and it's information heavy because there have been people that have hit us in our DMs that have sent us emails and have
Mhm.
said, y'all talk about these things, and y'all talk, and they're not negative. I want to make that very clear that a lot of these messages and a lot of these comments are important. They say y'all mention these things, but no one has actively talked about why trans. Like, we've talked about the trans experience, we've had trans people on the show, but we've never talked about like the actual logistical reasons of why trans people are under attack. So I said, since we are in a political place, since so much of what we've been talking about is really, the reality is right now there's a lot of misinformation out there about trans people.
Mhm.
I said, let's sit down, let's have a real conversation where we're just really giving people facts about what's happening. And so, with that being said, a lot of the information that we have gotten is from the ACLU. It is from Equality California. A lot of this stuff is actual research based stuff. So, that's my bag. I love to research. One thing about me is I'm going to research. But I
Okay.
want to make sure that people know that we're not just throwing out thoughts. These are all things that we've researched to make sure that people have the accurate information. So, as it stands, as of right now, and again, no matter how we slice or how we dice it, all of it is nasty work. Okay, all of it is awful. You like, yeah, there's some things we could be like yay about, but it really, really is like trans people in general. Like, I wish we were not here. I wish we didn't have to worry so much about our
Yeah.
trans family. And so, with that being said, I think it's important just to kind of give you all a scope of what's going on here, right? So let's first start by me letting folks know the stats, and then we'll get into a true convo about it. So far, there has been 661 bills in 43 states that have been proposed. Of the 661
My
bills,
God.
492 of them have failed. Praise God,
Ooh,
right?
bless.
Like, praise God. But there are still 124 of them that are active. 45 of those 124, which is still too many, have been
Mhm.
passed. So I want to give you a quick breakdown. Many of the ones that have passed are related to employment, education, healthcare, and sports. And we had CC Tefler on a couple episodes ago. We've had Dr. James Simmons on talking about healthcare. We've had several conversations about these, so you all can go back and listen to those episodes if you want to hear more detailed on that. But in this show specifically, we are really, really talking about this idea of why so many of these bills exist and how so much of that is connected to white supremacy. So that's kind of where we wanted to start. That's kind of the landscape. And like I said, 45 of those have been given the thumbs up. And so the goal for those who are people in power, I'll just say it that way, they are working to actively make sure that in the future, those 492 that have failed can come back in different iterations to be able to keep us from having our rights. So I just want to make sure I keep that folks keep that at the front of their mind, that just because they have failed doesn't mean that they can't bring those bills back in different
Mhm.
iterations and try to get them
Mhm.
passed. So I just want to put that there.
Ooh, and I want to name that of the 45 or 44 bills that were passed, they're in 16
Yep.
states. I want to name the states for y'all: Alabama, Florida, Iowa, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, New Hampshire, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. So those are the states in which there are people being affected in their access to gender affirming
Yep.
care, education, bathroom usage, civil rights, incarceration, and gender markering
Yeah.
on birth certificates. And so it is interesting to see what's happening, and also fascinating to know which states it is, right? Because those states are, states I definitely. I mean, I don't envision myself in any states, anyways. I mean, more than I have
Yeah.
to. But many states are often seen as more conservative in the first
Yep.
place. And and so that's think of states like California, New York, Oregon, Washington, where basically states along the coastlines that except for Florida that aren't like that
Right.
present, which is again just like a very fascinating thing.
Hmm.
Um, it's like it's so interesting because I feel like so much of what we're seeing at its root is related to the idea that if they like right like they want to scare us, they
Hmm.
want to hold power over us, and so if they can't scare us into hiding, then folks in power will do whatever it takes to take our rights
Yep.
away, so they can law us into mission, right,
Hmm.
into submission, so
Hmm.
they can they can legalize or illegalize things that will put us in places that will disempower us, disenfranchise us, and truly try to like dismember us as community people. And a lot of it is like it's an overt and really violent reminder that authoritarian systems operate in part through really strict gender and sexual norms. Like, a lot of these issues are people, a lot of these props or bills that are passed are ran by people who have like their own ideology of what gender and sexuality look like
Right.
and
Right.
believe that everyone should follow that. And it's interesting because they view queer and trans folks as disruptors, to these norms in like a nuclear family and binary way, but they see it through a bad lens, like they see it as a threat.
Hmm.
Like that's sad, girl. Like any that's
That's
sad.
it.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Like
Yeah.
y'all really think we're a threat because we don't identify the same way that you do, and that's really challenging to know, right? Because then in the day we're fighting for our right to exist, and even if we can share the same values, 'cause oftentimes we share the same values as these folks who are against us, they see us as antithetical to their own
Yep.
values, and it's like no, we actually all want family connection and belonging. We want to be, we want to be ancestors and live and love our descendants, but people don't want to see it for us. And so I'm curious to ask you, as someone who works really closely to advocacy work, especially to LGBTQ, queer and trans youth, what do you think the long term impact of of these bills will be?
Yeah. So you bring up a really good point, and it's even just this notion of like we representing a threat. I think I often think about what as much as people don't talk about Prop 8 anymore, right? We hear it, and people will bring it up in different facets. I still can remember the impact that it had on me, and we are going to be talking about props in a second, which I think this is great because it's like as much as we're talking about laws and we're talking about what's really at the root of what it's not just a feeling, right? So there was, and I want to make that very clear. What we're talking about here is not just the feeling of I want folks to treat me as a non-binary trans person with respect. No, these people are truly trying to get rid of me by law. Like they are lawing us into submission. And so I want folks to understand that like the last few episodes we've had where we've talked about trans rights, a lot of those were opinion based. Like these are facts, right? These are things that people are actively doing, right, to try to get rid of us. And so I realized that when Prop 8 came around, right? That was the moment that shook me. It was like, oh, these niggas really could keep me from having the life I want to have. Right. It was never
Mm-hmm.
just about me being an out person or a queer person. It was truly like, oh my God, like they don't want me to get married. They don't want me to have children. They don't want me to have a home. Like there are all of these things that these people are doing. And so that's kind of what this is about, right? Um, it's like even on my good days, we have some type of battle or some type of person who's trying to keep us from living our best life. And so, it just there's something in me that's like, I feel it. I'll say this and then I'll come back to it, kind of to the point of me being in Chicago. I had the chance, and it was an amazing chance to meet Andrea Jenkins this past weekend. And I don't know if you know, but she's the first Black
Mhm,
trans woman to run for office and to win, be
mhm,
out, right?
mhm.
I Hearing her say like, this will never end was very much kind of like, it was it woke me, I'm gonna say it woke me up, because I felt that coming into it, but it was something to hear her say it to me, right, as someone who's working
Yeah.
in, like, who's working in a state and who's actively watching this stuff play out around her, right? And so it's a reminder to me of like, I gotta rest, but I also gotta make sure that I'm getting the
Mm,
information to the people. And I think that was like I said, Prop 8 was the first time that I really felt it. And it really, like I said, between this weekend and between my own history, it just reminds me how much I have to keep fighting. And even in the moments when I get tired, I'm so glad that I got the experience that I had when Prop 8 happened, because it taught me how to
mhm,
organize. It taught me, as much as I'm not organizing now or that I'm not marching now, I know how to do it. It
mm,
also taught me how to canvas. It taught me how to talk to people about laws. It taught me how to activate people, right? Like, I'm grateful. Like, as much as I wish that I didn't have to do this, I'm grateful that I know how. And so that for me is what sticks out in all of this, right? Is that there's also a part of me that says that, like, I think that the folks that are putting these laws up, they recognize the power that each of us have as queer, black, black and queer, non-binary, all of the pieces of the rainbow. And I think they're doing anything and everything that they can to beat it out of us. But yeah, what about
mm.
you, my love?
Oh my god. I mean, I feel like so much of the same way of like I I mean, I've always been engaged in what is happening to what has been decided for my body or for my spirit or
Right.
for like for my person, right? The way I am for other people. And it's like, to hear that, like to hear you say, not that I appreciate the trauma of Prop 8, but appreciate being around for it, because it taught you how to manage your personal politics and how to, put work in. I think about that a lot, like so much, right? Like so much of, like I like I was like, as an adult, a big decision was when the Supreme Court struck down the Defense on Marriage Act,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that was like so big for me, because that was something as an adult where, again, I couldn't vote for it because that wasn't actually up to a voting thing, that was up to the Supreme Court. But watching
Hmm.
and realizing, oh, this is a group of what, 9 people that are deciding for an entire country,
Yeah.
what's the chances that someone like me could get married and it be legal in, on a federal level? And that was the thing. I was like, oh, like my access to joy, or my access to love, or my access to just publicly participating in society
Mm,
is like constantly up for debate, and so, like, and for, for Andrea to tell you this will never end, and for you to be like it's a hard truth, and a tough
yeah.
pill to swallow, but also something that is so, I find so, like, there's a level of, I appreciate her saying that because I know it myself, and it lets me know that there are others who are like, this won't end and neither will we.
Right. Right.
And I really, really appreciate that, because now, and as you see, or as listeners may see, like I've been doing videos about the props in California as well too, and we'll do some San Diego based ballot measures or bond measures. And to me, it's really important because, especially right now, we're at a time where people are so split on who to vote for in the presidential election. No one's discussing what's actually happening in our state, right? Like
Yep.
no one's actually discussing what's happening in our state, or in their own states. And so I'm like, listen, my MO right now isn't to get you to think about the presidential election. I mean, you should already be thinking about it anyways. But but they're also very real propositions that are affecting us here in California that you really should think about as you begin thinking about the electoral process. Like, you believe voting doesn't matter, but your vote will directly impact the
Amen.
outcome for many people that live in the state.
Yep.
So like you should really think about that. And so
Mhm.
I think for me it's like the the impact of understanding that makes me so much more, maybe what makes me informed, but also makes me so much more invested in informing others.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not like I'm getting maybe like sometime like I'm not getting a lot of likes or comments on these videos. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because if one person views this and says, "Oh, this really helped me figure out what to choose," then like job well done for me.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
there's there's so many folks who just give like a folks who just give like voter guides or something, and like all they tell you is what to vote for, but like no one tells you what the problem is actually about, like what's happening
Yep.
in there. And
Yep.
like I want people to actually know what I want to know people to know what they're voting for and why they might want to vote for it or against it
Yeah.
and such. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, and I'll get to that in our next segment, but so I want to ask you, John, with all of this, what messages or ideas should folks take from this
Yeah,
conflict?
you're like, what's the cherry on top of all this? And yeah,
Okay.
and I mean, I think it'd be easy for someone to listen to the segment and be like, wow, this shit is bleak, right? And it is. There are moments where I even, like I said, even for me as somebody who tries to stay as positive as I can, there are moments that I'm sitting and I'm going, I don't know how much more energy I have to pour into the fight, right? And what that means is like, even when you talk about the fight, like there's and again, I recognize that I'm not out marching and I'm not out organizing and I'm not doing all of that. I'm not doing what Hope Giselle does. I'm not doing what a lot of the a lot of the trans
Mhm.
girls are doing. And so I want to make that very clear that someone could probably come back and say, well, Dr. Higgins, well, who are you to be tired? But I think the reality is like there's still people don't recognize how much energy and effort it goes to like show up as your authentic self. And the days where you want to tuck your nails in your pocket, or the days that you don't, you second guess what you want to put on because you don't want to have someone ask you what your gender is, right? That's the politicalness of it, and we've talked about this, right? Like the personal being political, and we've mentioned it in other episodes. That's the reality of all of this, right? Like the part of me being
Mm,
who I am is political, and that's in that, even if I'm not on the front lines, I'm still actively resisting against the system that wants to eradicate me, right? And so I just want to make that
mhm,
very clear as we talk about this, that we are all impacted by this, right? And
mhm,
that's the thing I think people miss. I think that often we think, oh, well, this is just a you need to go out and vote thing. And it's like, no, we need to stop relying on courts and legislation. We need to understand that there is severe voter suppression and gerrymandering that is happening in
mhm,
Atlanta. They tried to do it in Texas. We just saw a woman go to jail in Florida for basically throwing ballots away back in 2020, right? Like that shit is happening, and it's happening often, right? And so we have the right to be leery. But I also want to encourage folks to make sure that they have strong networks of solidarity and support. And also reminding everyone, like you said, Joho, we do have to vote. And I want to make it clear that I'm not just talking about voting for Kamala. I'm talking about voting in general, talking about, what is it, the voting for every 2 years when you go to vote?
mhm,
It's not just about the primaries, sis. This year, yes, vote for the primaries, and that's important. We need you to do that, but y'all need to be focusing on the local levels, because
mhm,
whether you know it or not, right? The people that are sitting on your school boards, the people that are working in your local government, the people that are shouldering up to the police and stuff, them the niggas that are writing these laws. They are the ones giving money to the people at the top to take these laws to the Senate and try to get them passed and
mhm,
stuff. And I'm not going to sit up
mhm,
here and act like I'm a super political girly that I know where everything happens and everything goes. I don't. I want to make that clear. But what I do know is that the people that have a per capita of 500K per year or $500,000 in their account, they are writing checks for 10, 15, $20,000 to make
mhm,
sure that I don't have rights, right? And so I think you have to be. It's not enough to just say vote. I think we need to be more tapped in, right? We need to make sure that we are showing up to school board meetings. There was just
Mhm.
a woman up in San Francisco who was taken out of her job for talking about gender identity to youth, right, in the classroom. We need
Mm.
to be at that school board meeting. You need to be making public comment talking about this is an injustice, right? Because those same people that are sitting on that school board that took that woman out of her classroom are the same people that are influencing those laws that are being passed up, right? So that's literally what I'm trying to say. The people,
Yeah.
like all the niggas with money, they are the ones that are creating these bills. And by you saying, oh, I'm not going to vote, or I'm not going to be involved, or I'm not going to show up to that meeting because I don't have time for it, you are creating and opening the space and the doors for that stuff to keep happening. So my advice, or what I'm saying in this conversation, is we know the bad is at the door and it's trying to get in. We need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep it out. And you
And
can't turn
yeah.
you can't turn away from it now. You can't.
And people don't understand the pathway there is. Like people start on school boards, and they go to city
Yep.
councils,
Yep.
then
Yep.
then they become mayors, then they become like House representatives for your state,
Mm-hmm.
then they try for be governor, and then they try to be in like
And
Congress and federal.
all work. Yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a very clear pattern here, right? Like I think like so much the representative where I in the district where I used to work, right? Like she began as a school board parent, and then she became the mayor of that town,
Yep.
and then and now she's serving in the House of Representatives, and now she's talking about like what's her bid for governor, right? And that like that's what's like people are invested in a long game, like in a long haul
Yep.
game. And so people are invested in a long haul game, right, with our rights. We need to invest in a long haul game for our rights as well, too. We need to
Mm-hmm.
find the people that, find the folks now who are in these smaller positions who are who you feel might actually try to go for bigger positions, and where the politics lie, because you can be the one that's in charge of saying, not in charge, but you can be the one that's that impacts
Right. Influence.
whether or not they influence whether or not
Mm-hmm.
they go
Yep.
higher, or they go nothing like or not. And I was going to say this earlier as well, but it needs to be said now. We need to also pay attention to how attacks on trans folks are intertwined with attacks on abortion and the reproductive autonomy, gender affirming care, medical care, and Medicaid.
Yep.
Like also as well as anti poverty issues, support issues focusing on house, public education, and racial justice. This is not just about trans people, right? And but yet trans folks are actually being used as like ammunition for so
Yep.
much. I think sometimes it's hard. Like it's so easy. Like, it's hard to miss that a lot of this definitely revolves around misogyny, because it a lot of times attacks trans women,
Yep.
and we all know that how society hates women. And so pay attention to how so much of what we're doing is affecting femme folks, women, folks who identify as women, and it's especially inclusive of trans women, because
Mm-hmm.
that is who we're attacking, because this is a group of people that actually makes up a majority of the population.
Yep.
And like God forbid they get too much power and they overthrow all the menses. And I'm like, girl, the revolution will be led by feminist women, and I'm so here for it and so excited for it. So join us in helping us like make that happen. Join us for the revolution that will actually support all people,
Amen.
and not strive to displace, disenfranchise, and disempower us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that we have you activated, we gotta take a quick break to get our chant together. The people united will never be divided.
Yes, the
Woo!
people united will
United
never
will
be
never be
divided. Hey,
divided. Hey, the
yes.
people
That's how we
united
chant.
will never be divided.
Yeah.
Okay. We get some time to do our chant, pay a couple bills. When we come back, we talk about the props, baby, and get more for that political class.
My God.
More in just a sec.
Okay, y'all. So we are introducing what we like to call just kind of a new segment around here, and it's kind of called What's the Tea? And I know that a lot of you come to us, and I want to say this. Thank you to our listeners who jump in my personal DMs and jump into the show's DMs, and it's like, hey, y'all haven't talked about this, or have you thought about bringing this up? And so I definitely want to bring it up that this, I think it's imperative that we have moments on the show where, I mean, yeah, we cackle and we laugh and we talk about all of the fun stuff in entertainment. But there's also stuff that's going to impact us here. And considering that we are both Black, and we're living in a time where a lot of this stuff is impacting us. Like, and this is what I want to say before we get into the props. I know that a lot of this is kind of an information dump on you all on this episode, but I definitely want to make sure that folks understand that this information often is information that can be Googled, and so many of us are in our lives trying to just exist, and we don't have time to stop and do it. So that's why we're doing this. Is we're kind of doing this as kind of a favor to folks who genuinely don't have the time to sit and say, let me read through all this stuff and make sense of what it means. Because honestly, living in California, let's be real, you're tired, you're working hard, you don't have the time sometimes even just to think. And so we know that many of you are driving, we know many of you are doing different things, and we figured this would really help you, right? So in this new segment, What's the Tea, we want to bring you up to date on stuff that's happening both locally and nationally, and stuff that we believe is really important for folks to know. And so in this first segment, or in this first opportunity for us to introduce What's the Tea, because we are California girls, we wanted to give y'all some information about the California state props, considering that so many of us are asking, what the fuck does this shit mean? Now, for those who don't live in California, I want to invite you all to stick around, because I know some of you are probably like, oh, none of this impacts me, so I want to skip it. Okay, but also keep in mind that for some of you who don't live in California, some of these props will probably be introduced in your state, right? That somewhere down the line, you'll either hear something similar to it, or you'll hear something similar like it. And we want to make sure that you understand what it is. And I want to say that, as someone who lives in the Golden State, and if you're watching, you'll see the quotations, I'm not telling you what to vote. I'm just telling you what these props mean and giving recommendations. And shout out to the listener, my good friend Kyle, who listens and recommended that everybody should be thinking about voting yes, all except with 34 and 36. Do with that information what you will. But I'm just saying, Kyle works in law, and they are the reason why we're having this entire segment. So shout out to Kyle for that.
Right. Okay. Right. So, y'all, we have 10 props, and let me say as well, right? Like, this is also the point of why we're doing this, because folks will say, like, vote yes on this and this and this, and people are like, okay, but why?
Why?
And
right.
Folks, and folks are gonna Google, but oftentimes law is confusing, and so we are also trying to really make the language more accessible for y'all to understand what we're saying and why we're saying. So what we're gonna do is really break down these props for you, what we think about them. I'll be sharing what I'm leaning towards voting for myself, but I want to be really clear, y'all, like, we're not here to tell you how to vote. We are, we're not obviously we want you to vote regardless. We're not here to tell you how to vote. We want you to be informed of what you're voting on.
Amen.
So let's get into it. I'll share the first half. John will share the second half, and we'll just go back and forth on them. Okay, so first off, we have, and this is so y'all know what's going on in your states. I also want to say, just to John's point about if you're not in California, girl, know what's happening here, because it will affect you. Like, let me tell you right now, whatever happens
we
here
are the biggest economy in the U.S., all the time, so it will impact you.
Right? You may or may not have when you come here, first of all. And also, like, use it as a backboard for your own research in your own state and neighborhoods. Right. So the first prop that's on the bill, that's on the ballot, is Prop 2, borrowing $10 billion to build schools and colleges. Now, this prop would authorize the state to borrow $8.5 billion for K-12 schools and $1.5 billion for community colleges that will go towards renovations, as well as new construction. This really came about because I believe over 30% of K-12 students don't have access to, like, clean water or safe schools, as in safe schools, as in, like, buildings that aren't dilapidated and being destroyed. And so the point of this bond measure is to issue bonds to help pay for and renovate. It's to help pay for and renovate the schools. Well, also what is also happening too is that currently in K-12 districts and school districts, those districts can also issue bonds themselves too, and oftentimes they're matched by the state. But for people who live in more affluent neighborhoods, right, where they have higher property values and they have higher wealth, then those schools can raise more money for their bonds and have more output for the renovations. And so also this properly builds in a equity scale that says if you are have a if you're in a lower income community, then the state will cover more costs. So currently at present, the state covers about half of costs for districts, because there's no like permanent fund for renovation and repairs for our schools within the state, but they do match with bonds.
Mm,
And so the sliding scale will say we will give up to, I think, 55% for renovations and 65% for new construction. That will really help
mm,
the lower income communities get more funding for things that they may not be able to raise themselves. Now,
mhm,
the supporters of this prop do also say that this is a marginal line of equity, right? Like 5% is really not a huge percent to support. And also, even if one district gets 55% and a higher income district gets 45%, that will still be more money for the higher income district because they have more money in the first place. And so it's not like fully equitable in some ways, but it is a walk toward equity. It's something that I'm definitely supporting myself. Like I believe that schools and both K through 12 schools and community colleges should get the resources they need to really help support what they need to do on their campuses, whether it's build or
mhm,
renovate. So
mhm.
that's my thoughts on that. I'll just ask John. You give your thoughts on it yourself
No,
too?
no,
Yeah,
I think it's the only thought that immediately came up for me is that a lot of our schools are falling apart. So
yeah,
just kind of
yeah.
keep that in mind that there are schools that you would think
True.
out here again, and to keep in mind that a lot of it is connected to, and again, if you look at redlining or if you really know California the way we know California, certain schools have certain funding and certain schools don't. And if you really and if you do the research, you'll know why, right? A lot of it's
Period.
racism. So
Period.
that's a
Exactly.
big that would be a big deal to a lot of schools that are falling apart. So
Exactly.
mhm,
Okay, so next one is a Proposition 3, which is a really easy one. It's just about enshrining marriage. So we talked about Prop 8 earlier in this episode, and obviously it was a national debacle for California voters to figure out what they want to do. And obviously Prop 8 at the end was passed, which meant that the Constitution can be amended that had language that said that marriage will only be characterized between a man and woman. So Prop 3 in 2024 is to remove the outdated language and just change it to the right to marry is a fundamental right. Now there are some opposers of this prop who say this is what people will use to then so that they can marry kids or marry animals. No one's gonna do that, y'all. Please don't believe that. That is just really
yeah,
wild to say.
that's stupid.
It's
Mhm,
just saying that marriage is a fundamental right and taking out the language that says marriage is between a man and woman. Now, this is kind of a fluffy prop, in my opinion, because we already have federal protections.
mhm,
And knowing in California, we have more structures to protect us as queer and trans folks. But I will say it's helpful because we know that the Supreme Court is looking at really my protections. So by enshrining it into our constitution, it kind of like says that that will be okay regardless. So it's also a yes for me. Prop 4 is also the yes for me. I'm not gonna hold y'all. Don't if you vote no, you're dumb.
right,
Firstly,
right,
I think so. Prop 4, borrowing $10 million to respond to climate change. Basically, this is about issuing bonds that will go towards environmental projects, energy projects, and water projects, with $1.9 million, which is the biggest chunk of it, going towards water improvements. 40% of the bond revenue must benefit lower income communities or communities affected by environmental disasters, and also require the National Resources Agency to publish a list of funded programs and projects for accountability and transparency. So, all that to say, this is really about addressing the impact of climate change in communities. There is a question in opposition that remarks that bonds will have to be paid back somehow by taxpayers, but the ballot states that money will be paid back over 40 years from the state's general fund. So taxpayers actually have no like actual draw with this. Like we aren't affected, to my understanding. So it's also yes for me in Prop 4 because climate change is real, y'all, and we need to figure out how the fuck we can
right, right.
alleviate the impacts of climate change.
Mhm,
Next one, Prop 5. This is about lowering voter approval requirements for local housing infrastructure. So currently the amendment in our constitution, California, says that for local governments to borrow money for affordable housing and other public infrastructure projects such as parks and recreation and such, they need to have a supermajority vote, as in 66% of voters have to approve it, which makes it unfair because even though a majority of people may approve it, they need 66%. So this amendment will lower that approval rating from 2/3 to 55%, making it much more accessible.
almost half.
So that
Yeah.
way, yeah. So just a little bit more than
Oh my
half of people need
God.
to support it. And so this is basically so this could support local governments in actually funding their own priorities of having better housing,
Mm.
for housing, and access to public infrastructure. This is also a yes from me, because also it will require local governments to conduct an annual audit to ensure these funds are being used for the intended purposes and all the money is being spent. So I think it's actually really good and helpful. There's more campaigning against this problem than they're supporting it, but it's because they think that property owners will foot the bill and higher property taxes to pay back the bonds.
Mhm.
Now I'll just say as a property owner myself, I don't give a fuck. My taxes
I
get
always
raised
forget
anyways,
you own
girl.
a house.
Girl, I do too. One time I read this, I was like, bitch, as
I
a property
always
owner, I don't give a
forget it.
fuck.
It's so funny to
Like,
me.
at the end of the day, my
Yeah.
taxes are going to raise regardless. But I've done nothing, and my property taxes are being raised. So I might as well have that raised tax go
Right.
towards helping folks. So it's also a yes for me as well too on that. Now doing prop 6, y'all. I am blazing through this shit, y'all, because I know we got 6 more to get through. I'm
It's
blazing through
okay.
it. Prop 6 about limiting forced labor in state prisons. So right now in state prisons, there is a law that allows indentured servitude as a crime for punishment, and
Okay.
this is
Wait,
to
wait, wait, wait,
end.
wait. So is that what I think it means? Like basically,
Yes, slavery,
right. You can
slavery.
go to
Like
jail for having
if you
people
no no
enslaving. Or okay.
no, sorry, no, so no, it's saying if you're in prison for a crime, like, but it's saying
Oh, it's limiting
that
what people.
you
Oh, what? Yeah, it's
so
limiting.
you if you go to prison, you are doing
Yes. Yeah, I believe that.
servitude.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
and so this prop to vote if you vote yes on it is to end indentured servitude in
I
state
know that's
prisons.
right. Yes.
Which is
Mm-hmm.
a thing personally, I think for me, I'm like a yes to because at
Right.
present, many if I mean what this does is saying that like people aren't were forced to work
Right.
basically.
Right.
You can be required to work to one have a small income, to have time credits to help lower your sentence. But if you aren't, but currently if you don't work, you can be punished.
Mm.
And so this is saying we will end that as well. We will end back
Yeah.
punishment. We will not force people to work if they don't want to work or in some cases can't work. And we'll offer them alternatives to to helping them in their sentence
I
here.
love it.
A yes for me because I think we should end all forms of slavery, and
Amen.
this is one of the most final forms of it. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, I blazed through those
Yeah,
five in
you
like
did what
5 minutes.
needed to be done, sis. I think
Thank you. It
the
did.
girls got it, right? The girls that
Now
get it, and the girls
again, the
don't.
girls that
Don't.
don't. Now, John, I know you led a lot of last segment. So if you want me to, I'm also to jump the fucking on these props as well
No,
too.
you're
So
okay. No,
okay.
no, no, no. It's fine. So, thank you. I really thank you, Joe, for doing the first half because I know that a lot of them, again, we're not politicians, so we don't always have like a true explanation or true understanding of what all of these things mean. What I will say is that what also to keep in mind for people who are listening and are paying attention to these props as these props are written the way that they're written intentionally, but the other part of it is that a lot of these props impact other props. And so I'm thinking about like specifically thinking about the housing infrastructure conversation and the conversation around schools and funding and all of that and local housing. Like all of that is going to be connected to the props that where I'm going to read. And so I just want folks to understand like this is the reason why we're encouraging and we've been saying for months we have to vote. We have to vote because these things impact us. It's not again what's going on at the larger level. Yes, that's imperative, but this shit is happening in our backyard too. So I want to make sure that we
Mhm.
understand that. So next, Prop 32, this raises the state minimum wage to $18. And this initiative would raise the overall minimum wage from 16 an hour and adjust it for inflation. Fast food workers receive a $20 an hour minimum on April 1st, and healthcare workers will
Okay.
eventually get $25, while that wouldn't go into effect until October 15, 2025. Now, I will say I struggle. Now, I wouldn't say I struggle with this prop because I'm obviously where I stand with the right pay to people, but I always wonder like what are it's hard because sometimes I hear people say they don't make minimum wage, and I'm going, wait, what? Like, even in California, I'm still
Mm.
going like, what? So then what? Like, so I don't always understand the full. And if any listener wants to like hop in my DM and kind of explain it to me, I totally would be open to that. But
So there are some jobs.
yeah.
There are some jobs where I believe it's like not legally required to make minimum wage because you make it up in other ways, like tips and such.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so
Okay.
that's how. But and I also named that many cities already have a higher minimum wage than this in the first
Yeah.
place. Like like LA and San Francisco, I
Mm-hmm.
think
And
already
San
have like a
Diego.
$19
Yeah.
minimum wage, but this is saying across the entire state. So cities that currently who don't have a higher minimum wage will have to raise it as well too.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about how this will increase like costs of businesses and it'll make businesses close and they haven't recovered yet from the pandemic. Let's be clear, it's already happening anyways.
Right.
Like, it's already it's already happening anyways.
Mm-hmm.
The inflation has hit all of us. It's not because of increased minimum wage. Like,
Right.
that actually isn't the reason. It's interesting because I will just call out there are people who are funding millions of dollars for campaigning for this. And I'm like, but y'all could send that money to actually the businesses
Hello.
to help them step the minimum
Hello.
wage then.
Instead of
Like,
spending
you know,
money on literally trying.
on getting
Right. Right.
signatures or
Right. You could
campaigning,
just pay
give
people.
it to the
You
businesses,
really
and that
could.
way they won't have to complain about the minimum wage.
Hello.
Like, it's really easy.
It's
But
that
yeah,
simple.
yes for me as
But
well.
yet here
It's a
we
yes
are.
for me.
Here
Here
we
we are.
are. You can spend all this money trying to fight this prop, but you can just pay people. Really. Anyway, Prop
America.
30, right. Prop 33 allows local governments to impose rent control. This is the latest attempt to roll back a state law that generally prevents cities and counties from limiting rents in properties first occupied after February 1st, 1995. So 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 I guess the question, and again, I know I'm asking a lot of questions. I want to be
Gotcha,
clear
gotcha.
with this prop. This is basically saying that there are cities and counties out there that limited rent in properties in 1995, and now basically local government could come back and say, no, whatever this cost is too much. It needs to go down. Is that what this is?
So, uh, so,
I know I
so,
sound so ignorant. I'm sorry.
no, girl, you don't. Like, people don't know what's happening. Like, this whole point of this is right, so we all know.
What the
This is
fuck
so
is
we all
this
know.
thing?
Okay, so currently right now, cities cannot set rent control on single family homes and apartments built after 1995.
Oh,
So
okay.
so
Okay.
so
Okay.
on newer buildings, there is no rent control, and which means that people have
That's why
right like these
my
fancy places, people
condo
are having
pays as much I
have
pay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
and and the rents rates versus if it's before 95, you can set rent control. Um, and so right now, so cities can't set it, but like owners can essentially.
Mm,
But we all know that many landlords do want to raise the rent and such of many
mhm,
places. Now,
mhm,
in cities like SF and Los Angeles, those cities have limited the amount a landlord can raise the rent each year,
mhm, mhm.
which is also known as rent control too.
Right.
So this prop is so that all cities are allowed to control rents on any type of housing, including single family homes and new apartments, and for new tenants.
So
So
basically
no matter
rent control across the gamut.
yes,
Okay.
well, it just allows them to, doesn't force them to just allows them to. This is because nearly a third of California renters spend more than half of their income on rent,
Baby, if you knew how
and
much I
which is
pay.
higher,
Mhm.
girl, higher than in any other state except Florida and Louisiana.
My
So
God.
this is a prop that really, again, it's from the eye, and like but people are like landlords will get the shit end of a stick on this. As a landlord myself, I will not. Like I don't need to raise the
Right.
rent so much damn money in the first place. Like, the taxes do raise. Yes, taxes do raise every year, maybe by a percent or two, but you ain't got to raise the rent
You really
10%
don't
to
need to raise
supplement
the
her.
rent
Like, so
25-30%. Because I've
yeah,
had friends
it's a
tell
yes.
me that they've gone from like, I moved into this apartment, it was a 2 bedroom, and I was paying, 1600 for the 2 bedroom, and now I'm coming back and my rent is now $3,000. And I'm like, why is
Girl,
it doubled? Like, why has it like,
literally,
no, like literally.
literally, and so
Mhm.
and so and so and so if passes prop will basically help prevent that.
Got it. Okay, got
So
it. Thank you
yeah,
for that. Prop 34
yeah.
require certain providers to use prescription drug revenue for patients sponsored by the Trade Group of California Landlords. This measure is squarely aimed at kneecapping the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, which has been active in funding ballot measures. See Prop 33. So basically, the folks who are funding Prop 34 are basically like putting money towards trying to basically get folks to vote no on Prop 33 is what I'm reading.
Pretty
And
much,
and
yes, pretty much.
basically they are the ones that are saying like they're really just trying to take the AIDS Healthcare Foundation down.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Okay.
because they're saying that the revenue that they get for, like, for their
Yeah.
drugs should go towards direct care for those patients again,
Mm.
and so it's kinda gross because, like, they're framing it as a way of, like, well, like, you weren't actually helping people, like, if you're taking the revenue, but
Mhm.
it's like, no, they actually are helping people, like, regardless,
Right.
but it's only for foundations that spend $10 million a year or more on, I
Mhm.
think, like, lobbying this way. This one, and the AIDS Foundation is the only one that actually does that, and so it's kind of like it's kind of like aimed directly at them. So it's kind of a messy thing in the first
Right.
place. Like it's really messy. But the AIDS Healthcare Foundation also supports a lot of like public housing stuff, and so it's kind of like to kneecap them, so they can't support public housing work, and that is not cute. So that's why Kyle, your friend Kyle, said to vote no,
Mm.
because it's really about like a rivalry between this foundation and another organization, and it's just dumb. It's just
And then
dumb.
people with HIV/AIDS are the one that's caught in between it.
Yeah,
Of
exactly. Yeah.
of course,
So
of course. Of course
no on those
marginalized
hoes.
people are caught in between,
Of course.
capitalism. But anyway, here we are. Okay, so good again. Do what you will, but yeah, Kyle earlier. Prop 35, make permanent a tax on managed healthcare plans. This initiative is sponsored by California healthcare industry to raise more money for Medi-Cal and block lawmakers from using the cash to avoid cuts to other programs. The tax is set to expire in 2026. Now, what I do know, I don't know much about this prop, but what I do know is that something that we said yes to 2 years ago is what caused a whole bunch of mental health funding to be redistributed and reassessed earlier this year. And it impacted a lot of people I know personally, and a lot of friends of mine lost their jobs. And
Yes.
so I'm wondering, right? I'm wondering again, I don't know if there's a true connection there, but I'm wondering if that has something to do with this, right? And the importance of folks trying, because again, Medi-Cal and mental health funding, blah 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 blah. But yeah.
Yeah. So no, great point. So yeah, so that ballot measure, I forgot what it was, but I remember that because that was about like mental health resources,
Hmm.
and I remember, but it was so
It
like
was
badly worded.
poorly
It was
worded.
so badly worded, and so I believe like I believe it was passed, and I think it should not have been
It
passed.
wasn't,
Uh,
but a lot of people voted yes on that because they thought it was a good thing.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it actually was not a good thing,
Right.
and so this isn't that related to that, but I understand, like, why you think that,
Yeah.
because healthcare is also age related. This is really about, this is basically just, like, helping, Medicare, Medi-Cal get more, basically, like, the tax revenue from the federal government should also support this, and
Mm.
so this is up to get, like, more dollar for dollar matching, so that way, like, it helps increase the access of
My
Medi-Cal
God.
to people. Now, Medi-Cal, I heard, is not the best program for many people,
Mm-mm.
and also it is more than not having insurance at all. So I will say I'm torn on this one because
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it,
T.
but I'm leaning toward a yes, because I'm like, well, everyone deserves healthcare,
Right.
and Medi-Cal today is a universal healthcare, and everyone deserves better care, and this
Hmm.
is about giving them better care.
So my
Uh
also my question: does this include Medicaid, or is that something different?
So, I think they're different. Now, I don't, so I too am like,
Listeners.
"What's a Medicaid and Medi-Cal?"
Right.
Like, so 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 I think
Yay. Hey,
Medicaid
what's a
is,
Medicare, girl? Because my
oh,
mama says she
different
on
Medicare.
Medicare.
So I think Medicaid
Uh-huh.
is a federal version, Medi-Cal is the
Local
California.
version. And then
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
Medicare? For
local.
old
Um,
people? It's like, is that different?
Medicare, hold up. Let me
Let's
just
do that. We got
Medicare
time. We got some
versus
time.
Medi-Cal versus Medicaid, because I do have questions that I need answers. So Medicare and Medicaid are both government run federal programs. Medicare is for people who are 65 and older, and Medicaid is for people with limited income and resources. So yes, you were
Oh,
right.
okay.
And then
Okay.
Medi-Cal,
Yeah.
and then Medi-Cal is is in California.
Okay. So is Medicaid Medi-Cal in California?
No. Quick question, girl. You got me on that one, bitch.
No, I'm wondering. I'm not trying.
I'm like, no, 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 no.
Medicaid
I'm
is
like,
joint
no,
federal state. Okay,
but
so this
okay,
is
'cause
what the
it's
AI.
probably it's yeah, I was like, so it probably in collaboration, like, with Medicaid, but
Yes.
it's a California-focused
Okay.
medical system
Okay.
or medical insurance plan
Look at
for the
us
state.
being researchers. Come on
Look
now.
at us
A
go,
joint
girl. Look at
federal
us
state program
go.
that provides health coverage to eligible individuals, while Medi-Cal benefits refer to a wide range of services that can be accessed through private or government insurance. So I'm wondering if Medicaid is like if you go to, and again, I might be lying. So if we have any friends who are like nurses or friends who like work in like the Medi-Cal world, please let us know. Again, we are not above being told that we're wrong. But I'm wondering, and this is just what I'm wondering. I remember when I didn't have insurance. I wonder if Medicaid is when you go to like the county hospitals and
Mm,
they help you, and that's basically where it stops. Like it's just a federal, like if you just need to see a doctor and you need some help, they got you. And then I think Medi-Cal is the gamut of like, okay, if you want to go to Kaiser or if you want to go have like an actual practitioner. But Medicaid is just to kind of support you for just like enough coverage to be
mm.
well.
I know that I know that Medi-Cal can also help you access different
That
network of
part. Yeah,
providers,
that's what I was
but
saying.
Medicaid, well, and also again, like Medi-Cal is California focused, so it's a different. So you have like here in San Diego, it's
I'm right.
Script
Yeah.
Health,
Uh-huh.
and then Kaiser and stuff. But
Yes,
yeah.
so I am
So
right because it says that people with so it says Medicaid benefits include mandatory services like hospital services, physician services, and laboratory services. So basically, if I was to go to a county building and I didn't have any insurance at all, Medicaid would cover me. If I, but I'm
mm,
sure that there's still like things that you have, like there are boxes you have to tick, which to be
yeah,
honest, none of us should be paying for any of this shit anyway. Let's talk about it.
yeah,
But anyway, that's the difference. So yes, okay, we went down a
facts.
weird rabbit hole, but I'm glad that we know that now. So that way, when I go to bed tonight, I can be like, I know the difference between Medicaid and
Again,
Medi-Cal.
okay, listen, you never let that could be a trivia question, girl. So I'ma
What is the
keep that in my
difference
back
between
pocket,
Medicaid and
okay?
Medi-Cal? You be sitting there looking like, ain't they the same thing? And it's like, no, bitch, they're different. So I'm
Did
glad we
I?
know that. We look at us working together to figure that shit out. Okay, all right, look at us, look at us. All right, we got one more. Prop 36. It increases penalties for theft and drug trafficking. This measure, supported by Republicans, enough said, and law enforcement, but opposed by Governor Gavin Newsom and most Democrats, may be the most contentious on the ballot. It would partly roll back Proposition 47, approved by voters in 2014, that turned some felonies into misdemeanors. So this prop would impact people who might be like arrested for like marijuana or for like stealing, for like petty theft. Basically,
Yes.
they're saying that they want more tighter restrictions on, or being able to give people more time in jail for what could be considered a very silly, like like a 16-year-old walks into a store and opens a soda and drinks it, right? And then they get someone calls the police on them. Now they're looking at 2 or 3 years in prison because of
Because
this
it's a
prop,
felony and not a
right?
misdemeanor, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I knew
So,
that one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, girl, go off, girl.
Mm-hmm.
It also has a new category of crime, which is a treatment mandated felony. So basically saying people who don't, so like people who don't contest the charges, right? Who like don't try by the charges could do drug treatment instead of going to prison,
Mm.
but they don't finish treatment, they can still face up to 3 years in prison.
Wow.
This is again, a lot of people are saying no on this. If you believe in abolishing incarceration and believe in like reducing incarceration, this definitely will affect primarily affect Black and brown folks who get stopped by
Mm-hmm.
officers more often,
Mm-hmm.
and get profiled this way. So it's definitely a no from me. Um, People, if you think yes, girl, I would invite you to reflect on why you think these things are really not big crimes to be seen as
Mm-hmm.
felonies. And if response is, well, all crime is bad, I would invite you to then think about, well, what invites crime?
Right.
And maybe how can we alleviate crime for people? People
Mhm.
have the resources they need, they ain't gotta do crime in the first place.
Right. Right.
So maybe
And
think
that's the
about
thing to
that
keep in
too.
mind with specifically this prop, but just in general, like if folks like what causes crime is not having what you need, right? So if people actually had what they want or what they need, they wouldn't have to commit crimes. Just putting that
Like I
out
said,
there, right?
just, cart before horse go.
Right, right.
So
Definitely that. All right, y'all. So we literally have one more segment to get through. I know this episode's a little long, but with that being said, we appreciate you rocking with us. And when we get back, we are going to quickly breeze through our yes ma'am and no ma'am Pams for this week. Stay put. All right, y'all. So very quickly, I'm just gonna go ahead. I could spend hours gushing about the time that I had with Chicago and all what happened with me while I was there, but I definitely just want to give a shout out. There was a Black trans woman there. Her name is Zahara. I want to shout her out along with another Brave Space organization. I forget the name of the woman who runs the Brave Spaces location, but I seriously just wanted to quickly say that my yes ma'am is just the way I saw Black trans women coming together to help one another in Chicago. Like when I tell you, like I wouldn't say, y'all know I'm a crier and y'all know a lot of things will make me cry, but just to see the way that Black trans women, and I'm almost like I'm really fighting to get emotional now. The way those Black trans women came together to support one another, they are putting food in each other's mouths. They're getting folks housed. They are keeping clothes. And so I'll say this, and then I'll move on. I know we need to rush, or we need to hurry. But what I was going to say was, when I was in Brave Spaces, they had a closet for trans women for clothes. And to see the care, like normally when you go into closets, and I'm not shading anyone, but I'm saying like normally when you go into like closets, you can tell it's just a closet of like someone gave these people a whole bunch of clothes and just said, here, I don't want these clothes anymore. And but just the dignity that Brave Spaces gives to trans women who are like, it just, I think that's the thing that really moves me, is like there was so much dignity that they were giving back to people who genuinely feel like they have nothing left. And it's just so beautiful. Like I'm getting chills thinking about it. It's just so beautiful to see that there are people doing the work, but also reminding other Black trans women and Black people, Black queer people, that they have the right to love and be happy and live. And so, if you are in Chicago and you are affiliated with any of these organizations, shout out to you. I just want to say I love you and thank you for allowing me in your space and in your home. Okay, moving on to my no man Pams for this week. I have two. They're quick. One, white gays who are stealing our lingo. I heard a white gay say boots recently, and I wanted to scream, like, stop stealing our lingo. Stop taking the words out of our mouths when you don't even have Black queer friends in your circle. I know you don't. I know you don't. So can you not? Thanks. Also, white, and I say this, white women, but specifically white people at the airport, who always believe that they are so important to get in front of or to go around people, right? Like, and what I mean by this is this. So I'm in Chicago and I'm coming home. I have pre-check and I also have pre-check clear. The woman standing behind me in pre-check clear taps me on the shoulder and she goes, "My flight is boarding. Can I go in front of you?" And I looked at her and I said, "No." And she like looked aghast that I said no. And I'm like, you like, ma'am, Delta, United, Southwest, JetBlue, all of them, they give you reminders hours before. Like nigga, it pops up on your screen when you are 2 to 3 hours away from your boarding. The little pass will show on your screen. So how are you late? If you knew your flight was at 3 p.m., girl, why are you in line at 2:50 to go through TSA? When you knew your flight was at 3 o'clock, that's your problem. That has nothing to do with me. No, you cannot go in front of me. Sorry. But no, I am here an hour and a half early for my flight. You do the same. And I looked at her too, because she looked at me like all upset when she put her stuff in the thing and she like ran off, and I said, "I hope you make your flight." And she was like, yeah, I did. I said, I hope you make it. And as soon as she walked away, I said, she ain't gonna make that flight.
Oh my
And
God.
I don't care. Call me what you want. But ma'am, your failure to plan does not execute my emergency. So sorry. I am so
I'm
sorry, not sorry.
screaming.
I
I'm
hope you
screaming.
make it, sis.
Oh my
I
God, I'm
hope she
screaming.
got wherever she wanted to go. And you know what my black ass did right after that lady walked away? I went and stood in line in Garrett's and I bought me 2 bags of popcorn the way my
I would,
ancestors wanted me to. So,
oh my God.
sucks
I
for
live.
her.
I live.
But
I
anyway,
live.
white people, leave
Uh,
early because
I would have,
I'm not letting nobody cut me. I'm sorry.
oh my God, I
No,
scream. I would have, I'd absolutely let her cut me and
no,
say it's okay, girl.
no, because it's bigger. It's bigger than that for me. It is so much bigger than that for me. A lot of it is
I mean, it is about what you think your time is more important than my
right.
time
Failed to
because you got here
plan.
late. Like you think me as a black person should give you time and
No,
space because you felt fucked up. That is so true. That is so true, and it's so true. And I'm like, I just let her go. I'm like, go ahead, girl.
Kamala
I'm
Wave.
half early. It's okay if you
Kamala
said no, bitch.
Wave. I hope you
You
make it,
said
girl. You
no.
better
You
start running.
screaming.
Cause let's
You
talk about it. Because
screaming.
where we were at B in Chicago. She needed to be in C. So that means that she had
She wasn't gonna make it.
she ain't gonna make
Which is well, like, and sometimes like planes do hold the door. When I okay, so but I'll just say to that point though, if you're on a plane, if you are on a plane and the plane's late, and then people have connecting flights, and you don't move for them, I want to offer a fuck you to those bitches
right.
because that is that's when that I find despicable. Like if the plane is delayed because of XYZ and people have a connecting flight and now they have to run and you won't sit your ass down for them
Right.
so they can run to
Right.
the thing
Right.
for fuck you, bitch, because I've had to run from Chicago O'Hare B to C because my flight was delayed, and the way these motherfuckers did not get the way, and I said, girl, I literally each person I said, do you have a flight? Do you have a flight in 10 minutes? No, please move, girl. I need to go. I
Mhm.
need to go.
Mhm.
Dude, I'm so sorry. I need to go. No, get out the way, bitch. So, whew, but I think that is just hella funny. My yes, ma'am.
Patty.
My yes, ma'am. Okay, my no man Pam. My no man Pam is going to go. Um, we don't have it this year. Oh, great English. My no man Pam this week really is just a lot. I join you, John, in having people trying to cut you in line for shit. That's something that it does grind my gears, especially when it's like I'm not responsible for your planning. I feel you on that. Like you fucked up, girl. You should have been here early, or go find
Get
another spot.
another flight.
Also, there's several other clear uh systems here.
Yeah.
Go ask somebody else. Don't ask me, girl. Don't come to me thinking you can come to my spot. No, if you want, you should have what you should have done is beat me to it. You should have beat me to the clear thing. It's not my fault you lollygag yourself and dilly and
Like,
dally
why
over
are
here,
you
girl.
not hustling? Why are you not hustling, girl?
Because if I'm 10 minutes to my flight, girl, I am running.
Look,
I am, or the other thing, like if you approach me about rushing, you better look like you are huffing and puffing, girl. So I feel bad for you. If you like, hi, Megan, I'm afraid of you, girl. You look fine. You're
or
fine. You're
slip me a
fine.
$10 bill. You could even pass me $5 or $10. I'll
Let
let
me
you cut me.
let me hose on. Be like, I'm gonna say like, hey, like your coffee's on me. Can you let me go?
Right.
And but like also also it won't take that much time to do the clear thing. So like, also it's also like, girl, she saves maybe a full minute, and that 6 seconds will
You're
not do her
still gonna
much. Like,
miss
girl,
your
just
flight, sis.
she actually wasted more of her time asking you than you saying no and her being flabbergasted. She wasted more time doing that than just waiting for you to do it and
Right.
call that
You
a
could have
day.
just waited
Like,
behind me,
trash,
girl. You really could have.
trash.
Oh well.
Okay. Anyways, my yes man Pam is gonna go to a dear listener and dear friend of mine, Marvin, who listens to the show. Marvin's was my event planner for my
I
birthday.
love you, Marvin.
And I have to say, Marvin's, you ate, bitch. You came, you flambéed, you sauteed, you sashayed, you did all the A's and you ate that shit up. this human being took my dream that was a truly just a wild vision of dreams and made it a reality. I don't know how to I don't know how how they did it, but like everything from like everything in that venue was perfection. And
Amen.
they if you y'all need to find first of all, working with your friends is amazing. It is so much fun, especially when they fucking do the damn thing.
Right.
But being like, this girl is in her bag. She was in her bag this whole time. Like whenever we talked about a party, they would light up. And also, Marvin's, if you hear this, you were giving me just cunty realness. Like if Marvin's would go from like we'd be geeking all day, laughing at bullshit, and then we come to my apartment and they put on their glasses and be like, let's get to work. And I was
I
like,
know
okay,
that's
Marvin,
right.
okay,
Yeah.
Marvin.
Yeah.
I was like, you let me know, girl, get me together. Yeah. So just yes, bam, bam. Two friends who make your dreams come true and support you and really make things be better. Just love you so fucking much. And that's it for me today, girl.
I know that's right. And you know who else I want to also shout out before we close the show this week? I want to shout out to Glorilla because I know a lot of
Mm.
people talk really poorly about
Okay. The
Glorilla.
album,
And that
everything.
album,
Everything.
I literally was listening to the album as I was driving to the airport the other day, and I said, "This is actually really good." Like,
I'm sorry. The song with Kirk Franklin,
yeah,
you
Glorilla,
I'm like really got me.
this is
It
your
really got me. I
season,
was
and
like, girl, this
and
is
it's even better because I know that the City Girls talked a lot of shit about her a couple of years ago, and now to see that she has been
period.
able to actually like
Period.
break Billboard and all like her album has
Period.
done all these really cool things in the last week of it being released. Like I like this is her time, and I'm here for it because she's such a good person. Like I know people personally who know Glorilla, and she is a very, 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 very good person. And so it makes me really happy to see that she's getting her things, and I'm happy to support her. All right, y'all. Well, we got to wrap this up. So please send your thoughts, your feedback, your emails. If there's anything we missed, anything we got wrong, we are happy for you to send us an email. We will read it. We will send out corrections next week. We just want to make sure that the peoples and the folks that we love are informed. You can also send us your thoughts via social media by interacting with our posts on Instagram and Twitter by using the handles at Black.Fat.Femme Pod. You can also head over down to the YouTubes and watch and subscribe. I know some of you, I'm seeing more and more subscribers. So, come on down, girl. Watch us, watch you,
How you
watch
do?
us. Yes, yes. I
Okay.
love to see it. Joho, where can the dolls find you, girl?
Of course, my loves, you can find me at Joho Daniels across all socials. On my website, journals.com. And if not there, you can find me just floating on my presence. I got hella gifts,
Eh,
girl. I don't know what to
eh,
do with all of them. I'm just gonna
eh.
float in my gifts and say, I am beloved,
I
bitch.
know
I
that's
am
right.
beloved in this
I
world.
know that's right. As for me, you can hit me down. You can visit www.drjohnpaul.com. Make sure you go pre-order that book. Anybody, everybody, tell your mama, give it to people for Christmas, but buy multiple copies of the book. The pre-orders mean the most. It doesn't come out till next year, but please keep pre-ordering. And if you don't find me at Amazon or you don't find my book over at Wiley.com, you can go ahead and catch me eating candy corn and Garrett's popcorn honey because both of those are so tasty together. The cheese and the candy corn is just so tasty. That being said, we want to thank our producers, Bei Wang, for handling all of the logistics and everyone over at iHeartMedia for keeping the show up and running. And special shout out to Will. Thank you for the really lovely and beautiful message that you sent me earlier this week. You continue to just inspire me and really truly prove to me what good leadership looks like. So I just wanted to say up front that Will, you are my guy, and I'm very grateful for you. We would also like to shout out our wonderful editor, Chris Rogers, because without him, there would be no audio or visuals. I'm looking at you, Giselle. This has been another show. Stay black, fat, femme, and fabulous. And remember, we may not be your cup of tea, but drink some water. You probably need it anyway. I love us
Okay.
for real. Bye.
Bye.